Welcome to the Undercover Intuitives Podcast. I'm Courtney Jones. I'm an intuitive leadership coach, author, and medium. I love facilitating rich conversations that inspire, uplift, and empower people to create extraordinary outcomes in their lives and in their communities. In this podcast, we meet people who have followed their intuition to create amazing things. You may not know them, they may not be celebrities or have massive social media followings. They're people like you and me, working undercover to have a positive impact in the world. Hi, welcome and thanks for joining me today. I'm really glad you are here because today it's just you and me. We're going to talk a little bit more about something that's, as you know, very dear to my heart, but something that's often overlooked in professional spaces. And that is, of course, intuition. We're going to explore how intuition can serve as a really powerful tool for professional success and leadership. And it's about bridging that gap between logic and instinct for, definitely for better decision making and more personal fulfillment. So if you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I'm all about the intuition. I'm the undercover intuitive. I spent years and years working in corporate spaces where I had the look, had the corporate business suit, had the professional demeanor and nodding my head at just the right time and going with the flow. But deep down, I had this inner voice that was saying to me, there's another way to do this. There are ways we can be more efficient, more effective. But having that feeling like it's not appropriate to speak up, it's not the right time to share these things, it really kept me small and kept me quiet. And a lot of the time it kept me really frustrated. And we really understand about intuition and the way that intuition speaks to us a lot more now than we ever did. And it's always the stories that my clients tell me, that women tell me, is that there's something going on in their body, that it'll be anxiety, it'll be a niggle, it'll be a pain, a headache, whatever. And it's always that your intuition, it knows before your logic catches up. So we have been conditioned to prioritize logic, and we've been conditioned to look at the data, the facts and reason. And especially when things are really high stakes, it's all about use your head, think logically, do the research. And particularly when it comes to our careers and decision making around our lifestyle choices and our careers and how we support ourselves and build stability in our lives. But I'd like to submit that your intuition is actually in your career and in your business. It's your competitive edge. It can help you make better decisions. It can help you lead with confidence and achieve authentic success. It helps you align with the truth of who you are, and you can use it then as a reference point to keep checking in. Is this aligned with how I feel? Is this aligned with the truth of who I am? Your intuition's going to tell you. It's always going to guide you. And if you've ever been torn between following your gut or doing what's expected, this is the episode for you. We're going to dive into why trusting your intuition is not just smart, but it's actually, in this day and age, really strategic. So let's start with the basics. What's intuition? It's often something that's really misunderstood and considered to be mystical or vague. But really, at its core, it is the ability to synthesize all of your experiences and your knowledge and your subconscious observations into really clear and powerful insights. It's not guesswork. It's not putting your faith in something airy, fairy, or woo-woo. It's powerful, and it is data-driven, and it's a process that's happening beneath the surface. So even leaders we admire openly acknowledge the importance of intuition. Richard Branson says he's always relied on instinct when calculating risks or trusting people or making big decisions. And of course, Oprah Winfrey, she famously said, learning to trust your instincts and using your intuitive sense, it's what's best for you. So she has built a huge and successful career, and she puts that down to following her gut and to following her intuition. Now we know that science is looking into this and backing it up, and it shows us that intuition helps people make faster and more accurate decisions, and especially in high pressure environments. It becomes a skill. It's one that we all have, but many of us just don't know how to tap into it. So as professionals, we often undervalue intuition because we've been taught to prioritize that logic and that external. And particularly as professional women, we find ourselves in a space where there is still a lot of unconscious bias around women in leadership roles, or that women need to be tough and they need to be seen to be practical, logical, by the book, toe the line kind of people to be trusted as leaders. So let's talk about why it's a game changer, especially for those who are juggling career or families, or even who are working on their own ambitions that might be running concurrently to their career or their other jobs, perhaps women wanting to start businesses. Faster decision making is one of the first and foremost pieces of evidence that backs up the competitive edge around intuition. So in a world of information overload where, you've got Google, Wikipedia, everything, ChatGPT, Facebook, the news, the TV, it's all going on, right? It's just information overload. And sometimes there's just too much. We get analysis paralysis. It's like you've got everything laid out in front of you, but where do you even start to pull this all together, to unpack it, to line it all up? So the fact is that intuition helps you cut through the noise. Instead of overthinking every single detail, when you're familiar with your inner signals, you can rely on them to guide you quickly and effectively. And so that saves a lot of time, it saves a lot of energy, and it saves a lot of effort. Intuition creates a competitive edge because it also enhances your creativity. So if you've ever had a brilliant idea and it seemed to come out of nowhere, that's your intuition. It connects all of the dots in your conscious mind, the ones that you haven't even noticed yet, and it gives you those innovative solutions that others might overlook. It's really like channeling. It's you having access to information that you just can't look up on Google. When you're being led by your intuition and guided by your intuition, it really allows you to step into authentic leadership. And this is really so important and so powerful because so many of us feel that imposter syndrome, feel like we don't belong there. We have that, we're not confident about our roles in corporate spaces or business spaces. We feel that we really need to earn our stripes before we speak up and take the lead. But when you make decisions that are aligned with your values and your inner wisdom, people really feel it. That's where the connection is. And your teams begin to trust you more. Your clients resonate with your choices. Your authenticity is magnetic because it's all about energy. You are in your true self and people can feel that and they respond to it. It helps you bring people on board. It helps you communicate your message. And it is from a place of absolute truth and authenticity. Using your intuition also adds to your ability to adapt to a constantly changing world of business and, professional corporate spaces. So your intuition can help you pivot confidently when you're faced with uncertain things or rapid change, and it gives you that edge in dynamic environments. It allows you to kind of rise above the chaos and to be able to really see things as they are and make rapid aligned decisions. So all of these things are wonderful opportunities and, again, competitive advantages to have in the workspace. And it's something that is becoming more and more understood, and certainly something that people are beginning to look into and want to employ in their careers and also in their everyday lives. So let's talk about some practical ways to tap in to your intuition and how you actually use it in your day-to-day life. I have clients come to me, they work in very high power roles. They're busy leading and deciding and planning and budgeting and doing all of these things. And they are often stressed out, overtired, no energy. They're not making time for regular rest or eating. And the first thing that you can do to tap into your intuition is listen to your body. It's constantly sending you signals. And so, for my own experience, when this really started to come to the fore for me, it was that underlying sense of anxieties. Like it was just ticking away. It was just this little hum. And I kind of, accepted that there was this baseline of anxiety that everybody had, and it was just normal. But this was a knot in my stomach that was telling me that something didn't feel right. And I started to notice that that would happen at certain key milestones in my life. And that was my intuition saying, this is not right. On the other side of the coin, when I was faced with decisions and opportunities that were aligned with myself, I had that feeling of lightness and joy. It was like, it was the absence of the anxiety. So it was a real contrast in feelings. And just by paying attention to that and clocking that, I get that feeling when something's going on that's not aligned, and I get this feeling when, I'm on my path, I'm in my flow. It really helped me to build this language with my body signals and to build that trust, because I could use it to check in on things and to build evidence that my intuition was working to support me and was guiding me. So discovering having this tool available to you, it's really easy to just check in daily. Take 5 minutes every morning, sit quietly, reflect, feel into your body, and just ask yourself, what feels aligned for me today? Is the plan for the day, the next obvious step? Is this on my path? Is it aligned with my authenticity? Ask questions that give you, a clear yes or no answer. And this really small practice, you can do it while you're having your morning cup of tea. It can help you tune into your inner voice so much more. And by doing it at the beginning of the day, you're doing it before the noise and the chaos and the emails and the meetings take over. So you've already set yourself up for, a day of flow and a day of being guided. And so I mentioned asking the questions and getting, that very clear signal for yes and no. So here's a really simple technique, and I share this in my book, The Leader Within. And so just check in with your body, take a few deep breaths, and just ask your body to say, show me a signal for yes, and a signal for yes, and a signal for yes. And just see what comes up, see what's tingling, see what's twitching, see if you feel, if you hear, if you sense, if you see. Some people get colors, some people get sounds, some people get a combination. Just notice what's going on in your body. And then when you've got that, pay attention to it, note it, this is my signal for yes. And then you do the opposite. You ask your body to give you the signal for a definite no. This is my no, this is my no. Notice the difference. And to really lock it in, you can then say, okay, I know what my yes is and I know what my no is. Then you can ask yourself a series of questions to which you know absolutely the answer is yes, and just see that body respond. That is an undeniable yes, and there's your body responding. And do the same for no. There you go. You've locked it in, you've anchored it. Then you can practice identifying the signals for everyday decisions, things that are of little consequence but that you're willing to follow, so that you can build that trust and build that evidence. So it could be, is the apple the best choice for me today? Yes or no. It could be, is the blue shirt the best choice for me today? Yes or no. It could be, is there anything else I need to prepare before I go into this client meeting? Yes or no. And you can just start to ask cascading questions that will get you deeper and deeper into information. Before you know it, when you're tuning in those signals and when you're following the guidance, when you're saying, I trust this guidance and I'm willing to follow, it becomes stronger and stronger. And you get to a point where you don't even really need to ask the question. You'll be thinking of something and you will get those telltale signs. You'll get the yes, you're following the right train of thought. You're on the right path with this idea. Keep going, keep going. And then you can start to have this little dialogue and checking in with your body. We're on the right path. We need to readjust. It's just a beautiful way to operate in business, in career, in your life in general. It's also about energetic awareness. And so by building your intuitive dictionary, or understanding your psychophysical process, you can then begin to pay attention to how different people or projects or environments make you feel. And so you know that if something is constantly draining your energy or causing feelings of anxiety, that's a red flag. That is something that says, I need to readjust, I need to step back, I need to reassess and see what else is here that I'm not cognitively paying attention to, that I can readjust or step away from. And on the other side of the coin, if you feel energized, if you feel, that tingle of excitement, lean in, go with it. That's aligned. You're on your path. And so let's address the elephant in the room, which is, why don't we trust our intuition? And for many of us, it's the fear of doing something wrong, or from kind of stepping out of line or looking unprofessional. It's the fear of standing out from the crowd, doing something outside of the norm. And particularly as we're, wanting to expand our careers and move ahead and progress, you want to be noticed for the right things, not for being, someone who might be a bit odd or who is going against the current. So there is this ingrained fear that we have about popping our heads up. It happens in all different spaces. It's like you want to go with the crowd so that you don't stand out because there's safety in numbers. But also we're told from a very early age, use your head. Think about it. Use your head. Weigh up the options, pros and cons. And we then begin to dismiss our gut feelings and our instincts as being unreliable. But reflect for a moment and ask yourself, how often have you ignored a gut feeling and then looking back on it, you're like, whoa, that was the wrong choice, or that didn't pan out. I had a feeling and it didn't pan out. That's evidence. That's your intuition saying, here's the information. And by, not following it, you've proven that your intuition is there. And so it is really about rebuilding trust in your intuition, and it starts with those small steps. So as I said, when you're tuning in those yes and no signals, start with situations that are kind of low stakes. So, little things about time of day to exercise, what to eat for lunch, something to tune in for right in the moment. Do I take the stairs or take the elevator? What feels right in this moment? And just take a note of that, of all those little times. I got gut, I followed my gut on this. It led me into something great. Tick, evidence. Put it in your evidence column. Start to build that really solid foundation so that your logical brain can understand, okay, intuition is part of my process as well. And you won't just easily write it off like you have done so in the past. I think this data-driven culture that we live in, where there's miles and miles of information and research, it is possible to have a balance. And this is also why I strongly encourage that as you're tuning in your intuitive process, you do collect the evidence. You get the data. It's data to add to say, this is something that's valid. This is proving to be right. The evidence is that this works out for me. And so that satisfies the logical decision making, and it kind of keeps the ego satisfied that you'll be safe if you're following this. So it's not about throwing data and research and all of the things that we've learned, our corporate knowledge and our skills and expertise out the window, but it's about integrating that intuitive side into your decision making process. So you can kind of think of your intuition as like a compass to the data map. It gives you the direction to go in. It will help you understand which avenues to explore or how to navigate through a tricky situation. And when you've got those two balanced, when here's the information, this is the business case, this is the project plan, all of those kinds of things, and this is what my intuition is telling me about the next obvious steps, or if ways to find efficiencies or people to recruit onto the project or the team, it makes you unstoppable. It increases your chances of creating outcomes that are beyond expectations, that create a positive impact for a bigger audience than you had thought in the beginning. It allows the people you're working with, the teams, to feel engaged, to feel motivated. You're seeing success on a daily basis because you're following this guidance. It helps you communicate. This is how I'm working. This is my message. This is what I'm doing. People buy into that because, again, it's about authenticity and energy. So if you've read my book, then you will know of my, I guess, big kick in the pants when it came to following my intuition. It was always kind of something that just was there, and I'd get a few spooky feelings, or you walk into a room and go, no, that's not right. Those little anecdotal things that we do right off. But the big moment for me was more than 10 years ago. So that's proving how quickly time's flying. When, I was in a pretty transitional stage in my life. My marriage had fallen apart. I'd kind of turned away from this ideal life that I'd built where it all looked great, the house, the car, the job. And I was trying to get back on my feet. And so I'd been working in a role with a large organization that I was really enjoying, and I'd been offered another role. And it was a permanent full-time role that ticked all the boxes. It paid the bills. It was close to, home. It ticked everything. And it was like, this is my opportunity to get back on track, to get back on my feet, and to make up for some lost ground after my disasters. And I thought about this job, and every time I thought about it, I was just like anxious. I felt like I couldn't speak. There was like this panic attack going on. I just felt so off. And I put it down to being tired, exhausted, stressed. This was high stakes kind of stuff. And I just tried to ignore it. And when I actually went to pick up the phone to speak to the recruiting agent to say, yeah, I'll take the job, I was frozen. I couldn't move. And I just thought, what's going on? And very clearly I heard, do not take this job. And I was just like gobsmacked. I was like, what do you mean? And I was sitting there thinking, but it ticks all the boxes, the income, the stability, the career progression, all of this. And it was just like, don't take this job. So I thought, okay, what can I do here? And as soon as I told the recruiting agent that I didn't want the job, it lifted. That all of that tension, that stress, that feeling sick, feeling physically sick, it lifted. And I just had this feeling like, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. And I didn't take the job, and everything was okay. And it was like this moment where I just went, there's something else going on here, and I really need to start paying attention to it. Because prior to that, I wasn't paying attention, and that is what had landed me in, a state of discombobulation. So my takeaway really was that my intuition complemented my cognitive thoughts about what it was that I wanted to do with my life, and it really kind of sat alongside where I really felt that I wanted to be in life. And so when I began to trust it, I became unstoppable. I was driven to take the next step, the next step, the next step. And so for you, when you learn to trust both your logical decision-making process, your logical thinking, and your intuition, and to blend them, you become an unstoppable leader. And you're inspired and you're motivated. And there's so much action around that and energy around that. And I love it. I love seeing people switch from that not trusting or not even being aware of their signals and switching into an awareness of intuition and coming back to me week after week with stories about, I got a gut instinct on this and I followed it and this is what happened. And it's a happy story of, coincidence and synchronicity and unexpected good outcomes. So I guess what I'm trying to say, the bottom line of all of this is your intuition really is your competitive edge. And it's not just a feeling. We're not just talking about those feelings in your body, but we're talking about cultivating a skill that can guide you to make better decisions, to lead authentically, and to create success on your own terms, whatever that looks like. And for you, that might look completely different to the next person and the next person, and it may look completely different to what's expected of you. But if you're being guided towards something that's bigger than where you currently are, or even in a completely different direction, think of what the cost is of continuing to ignore it. And at this time of year, when we're feeling tired, we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling like we really need a break, we're ready for the festive season to come so that we can have a few days off to just relax. But that's the opportunity to say, I've got space now to think about what it is that I want to achieve in my life. What do I want to create? How do I want to show up? And how do I want to feel when I'm doing that? So this week, I challenge you to experiment with your intuition. I challenge you to pay attention to those subtle signals and take a note of them, write them down, and just even if you act on one small intuitive nudge and see where that takes you and write down the evidence, tune in on how that feels. How does it actually feel to follow that guidance and to see what outcomes it creates for you in being guided in that way? But as you know, I work with professional women, with people in business, to tap into their intuition, to realign with their soul calling, to really get familiar with what it is that drives them and what makes them tick. And we've had some amazing discussions with people over the last few episodes to find out how others interpret their intuition and follow their guidance and the success that it has led them to. And I hope that that's inspired you, and I hope that it's made you curious. And I know that when we have these beautiful conversations with other people, it's always like, yeah, I can feel that inspiration and that authenticity. But if you would like to dive deeper into tapping into your intuition, you can check out my book. It's called The Leader Within, 7 Steps to Ascension Leadership and Intuition in Business. And it's just full of exercises and insights that'll help you harness that inner wisdom. And so the challenge is there for you this week and moving forward to just tune in, to see what your inner wisdom is telling you and to see what guidance brings to you. And so that's it for today's episode, something that I feel is quite poignant at this time. And if this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with a friend or a colleague who could use some intuitive guidance or who is starting to ask those questions. And keep the conversation going. You can comment below or you can follow me on the socials and just tell me how you're using your intuition in your life and in your work. And I trust that you will have learned how to trust yourself a little more and lean into your power and really to redefine success and reclaim your power to thrive and lead with intention. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.